from that as those who are recipients of the generosity involved. It changes and transforms us. So that's another reason for being involved in projects of this kind. And then there's another story, and this is about a beggar who every day puts out his hand asking for funds. And it's the story as well of Rossetti and Morris, two pre-Raphaelite painters. And whenever they see the poor man, they respond differently. Rossetti empties out his pockets and gives every single coin and every piece of note that he has on him. But he goes away and he thinks no more about the beggar at the door. Morris, on the other hand, never ever gives a penny piece, but he goes to work for a world in which there will be no more poor people, no more beggars. So Rossetti was all heart and Morris was all head. And I think we need to be a combination of both of those things. We need to have heart and we need to have head. And Motec, I think, is doing both of those things. It's responding with a generous heart, but it's using its head too. I want to share with you, if I may, I'm not going to go on at great length, but some facts that illustrate the importance of what it is that Motec is going to try and achieve with its latest project dealing with malnutrition. According to the United Nations, there are some 870 million people in the world who don't have enough to eat, and that number's fallen by 130 million since 1990, but the progress slowed down after 2008. The vast majority of hungry people, 98%, live in developing countries where almost 15% of the population is undernourished. I was very struck recently that the London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene issued a report about obesity, and they said that if we tackled obesity in Europe and in the United States, there would be sufficient food to feed another billion people. There was also a report from the College of Engineers, Mechanics and Engineers, and they did a report on the wastage of food. And they said if in the world we tackled the problem of the wastage of food, there would also be enough food to feed another billion people. So those figures could be tackled and they could be sorted. But there are other things we can do. If women farmers had the same access to resources as men, the number of hungry in the world would be reduced by up to 150 million people, according again to the UN. Undernutrition contributes to 2.6 million deaths of children under the age of 5 each year, 1/3 of the global total. And a new UNICEF report published only last week pointed out that the first 1,000 days determine all sorts of issues with a developing child, not least intellectual impairment that results if there's malnutrition, let alone the bodily functions too. 1 out of 6 children, roughly 100 million, in developing countries is underweight. 1 in 4 of the world's children are stunted. In developing countries, the proportion can rise to 1 in 3. 80% of the world's stunted children live in just 20 countries, according to The Lancet. 66 million primary school-aged children attend classes while they are hungry across the developing world, with 23 million in Africa alone. And finally, the World Food Programme calculates that some $3.2 billion is needed per year to reach all 66 million hungry school-aged children. Now, sometimes when you hear these sorts of figures, you can feel like the little boy in Robert Louis Stevenson's book who says, "The world is so big and I am so small, I do not like it at all, at all." You can feel utterly overawed by the figures, and you can say, well, what can I do about that? Well, because you can't solve all the problems of the world, it's not a reason for not trying to solve any of them. And that's precisely what Motec tries to do. The Jewish rabbi who said that the person who saves a single life saves the world was right. That's the purpose, I would say, behind what Dr. Paul is trying to achieve. And I hope it's what many of you will agree with me tonight is worthy of all of our support. And with those words, let me formally introduce Paul and ask him to say a few words to you.
My Lords, Lord Alton, Chief